This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news and intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversations. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the management and staff of Guardian Radio.
Yeah, it's empower, educate, and encourage all women to motivate you through whatever you've been going through. We can talk about it. We ain't passing no judgment. So don't be ashamed. It's all the same. Stay in your lane. Your lane. It's whatever your real life looks like. Stay in your lane. Come out the dark and don't be ashamed. Your lane. Let's have a conversation on what we face every day. Tune into your lane talk show. It makes us feel good just to know we're not alone. No more will we feel isolated and cast aside. I want you to come out the dark. Just don't be afraid of your heart. So don't be ashamed. It's all the same. Stay in your lane. Your lane. It's whatever your real life looks like. Stay in your lane. Come out the dark and don't be ashamed. Your lane. Let's have a conversation on what we face every day. It's your Lane Talk Show with Coach Trish, Hanna.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to your Lane Talk Show with your coach, Trish, Hanna, broadcasting live from Nassau, Bahamas. All right, on the Guardian Radio 96.9 FM dial. It is so beautiful to be in your company once again. All right, I want to say happy 4th year anniversary once again to your Lane Talk Show. We are celebrating all month, by the way. All right, we're celebrating all month. We are 173 shows or episodes in, and we want to say to God be the glory on your Lane Talk Show. Our mission is to educate, encourage, and empower women of all ages in spirit, soul, and body. But of course, we always welcome our men to tune in and chime in as well. Your Lane Talk Show is faith-based, okay, for those who are tuning in for the first time, but we are also real, relevant, and relatable. That's the topics that don't always make it to the pulpit. All right. Last week's episode was a rebroadcast. So the week before that was episode 172. And it's titled Women in Uniform, Mothers at Heart. We celebrate women in uniform who are not only protecting the nation, but also raising the next generation. So we had with us guests 3575 Sergeant Crystal Nottage from the Royal Bahamas Police Force. We had Assistant Squadron Commanding Officer from the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, Rupert Thera Simonet. And we also had with us Sergeant Trish McCarty, who served with the Bahamas Department of Correctional Services. It was such a delightful show where they shared their truth and they were able to share their, they were able to share their challenges, and the benefits, the blessings of being a mother while serving the country. And it was a delightful show. So of course, if you missed it, you can go to YouTube, Coach Trish Hanna. That would be episode 172. And it's titled Women in Uniform, Mothers at Heart. All right. So now today we are having a powerful, necessary conversation entitled More Than My Condition, Redefining Life Beyond Sickle Cell. Okay. And with that, we know that many times we see people smiling, showing up, working, serving, and living life, but we have no idea what battles they are facing behind the scenes. None at all. All right. We see them, but we don't know what they're going through. Chronic illnesses, and any form of illness is one of those silent battles that people deal with, and it affects not just the body, but relationships. It affects mental health, confidence, purpose, and even faith. Sometimes people can look perfectly fine on the outside while fighting pain, fatigue, fear, and frustration on the inside. And when my guest who we have in studio presently, Gregory, began sharing just a few parts of his sickle cell disease with me, I immediately said, bro, you need to either write a book or just go continue spreading your word on different platforms. You need to get this out, right? Because people need to know, people need awareness, people need understanding, and most importantly, people need hope. And let me remind you, I'm excited about this particular show, but I want you to know that you can not only just listen, but I want you to participate. This is a conversation you can be a part of. You can call in, you can text, you can comment live and engage with us and our guests. All right, there are lots of ways that we can be heard today. You can tune in to Guardian 96.9 FM radio dial, channel 969 on cable, BTC Flow channel 612, the Guardian radio app for Android or Apple. On the website, you can actually go to www.guardiantalkradio.com. We're also on YouTube, Your Lane with Coach Trish Hanna. Excuse me. Okay, for Facebook, we are in live coaching. So you can pick, choose, and refuse what you want to do. No problem. Let me know what it is that you want to, however you want to listen in. We'll be happy to have you on board tuning in with us today. Your Lane with Coach Trish Hanna, episode 173, More Than My Condition, Redefining Life Beyond Sickle Cell Disease, is brought to you by John Shoe Store and Accessories, Tropical Gyros, Your Lane Life Coaching, the Children's Dream Journal, available at All Seasons Book and Gift Center in Palmdale or on Amazon, Lysol, distributed by Thompson Trading, and all of their brands. Thompson Trading has Lysol, Del Monte, and Airwick, who are presently sponsoring today's show. Thank you so much, Thompson Trading. Commonwealth Bank and 242 Media Connect. Listen, the voices are here. The stories are here. All right, the talent is here, right in our country. Introducing 242 Connect, your go-to space to connect media and message across the Bahamas. Whether you need a guest or you are the guest, the platform is for you. Don't miss out. Just go to Facebook, search 242 Media Connect, and get connected today. Let's elevate the conversation. We have professionals. We have persons who just have a story that needs to come out. We have people who have podcasts, talk shows, events that are looking for people for the platform or platform guests, etc. And so that's where you will connect with 242 Media Connect on Facebook. All right, so go ahead and join the page. So now my question for you, for our listening audience, is have you or someone you love been impacted by sickle cell disease, and what has that journey taught you about strength, faith, or resilience? So if you are presently going through or battling sickle cell disease, or you have a loved one that is battling sickle cell disease, we want to hear from you. We would love to hear your stories, for you to call in, maybe to ask questions, because we have a few people coming in on board as well. We have a doctor coming in, medical doctor that's coming in shortly. And of course, we have a gentleman in studio who wants to share his actual journey and experience. And then later on throughout the show, you will hear from a wife of someone who has experienced sickle cell disease. Okay, so we have lots and lots and lots of information provided and ready for you. If you have any questions or if you want to share any insight, you can go ahead. The numbers to call are 323-6232, 325-4316, or 325-4259. And should you want to text anonymously, or you be like, okay, well, I don't feel like calling, but I can text, you can do that. The number to text is 422-GR96. That's 422-4796. All right, so let's get into it. We're going to wait for Dr. Sinqui Brown to come in. So in the meantime, we're going to have questions for our present guest, who's none other than Gregory Culmer. Gregory, welcome to Your Lane.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So Gregory, let's get straight into it. First of all, I want you to introduce yourself to our listening audience, and then I want you to share with us your journey.
Okay, well, my name is Gregory. I am also related to the host, my favorite radio talk show host, Trishan. And I was born in 1984, so I'm 41. And I didn't know anything about sickle cell, obviously, when I was a kid. All that I knew was memories that my mother shared with me. People with sickle cell tend to be very short in stature. They often have dark circles beneath their eyes, jaundiced eyes, greenish or yellow jaundiced eyes, rather than the natural white sclera of the eyes. Sometimes they're very thin. Sometimes they have trouble gaining weight. They can sometimes be low in mood or seem groggy because, they're with less blood.
So I want you to share with us then, how has the journey been for you? You said that you didn't know that you had it growing up, right?
Right.
So obviously your parents knew that this was something that you were diagnosed with.
Right.
So how did you feel, as you were growing up? Did you experience those symptoms that you just listed?
Right. I just learned recently that my mother actually got tested and my dad got tested in the 80s. I didn't know that you could that early on. And she knew that she was a trait carrier. So what happens with sickle cell is there's a 25% chance with 2 trait carriers that they might have a child with sickle cell. It's not a guarantee. There's a 50% chance that they will just have the trait if they're born to 2 trait carriers. And then there's a 25% chance that they won't have anything. So it's like a 1 in 4 odds that they would have sickle cell. It's kind of rare, I think only 197,000 people the last time they did a census was recorded with sickle cell living in the United States.
So I want you to share you.
Right.
We actually going to have a doctor that's coming in to
Right,
share
okay.
all of that statistics, all of that information. I want to hear your truth.
Okay,
Right? So I
my-
want to hear about you and how you were growing up. How has the experience been for you? What were some of the symptoms that you were feeling and just thought that were
Right.
ordinary?
Right. My mom told me that the first time she figured it out was when she was bringing me on a plane back to Nassau from Miami, because I was born in Miami. And she said I started turning purple.
Oh.
And I started turning blue. And it was a unpressurized flight. It was one of those small little planes. And it wasn't pressurized, and they had to turn the plane around and land at the airport of origin because something was going on with me. And that's the first indication that she knew that something might have happened to me. And the memory that I have after that personally is being in Princess Margaret Hospital in the children's ward, looking up at my mom, from this all-iron crib, asking her, "Please, Mom, take me home. I'll take my vitamin C if you just take me." Yeah, I think back then they were giving me blood transfusions. I really rarely had symptoms early on in later on. I would say after I passed the age of maybe 5 or 6, I didn't really have many symptoms. I only knew something was wrong with me when I would come home from the beach. We would go as a family to the beach on weekends. Then I would just have these back pains and just be in the back seat of the car aching, And finally, I think, my mom must have been around the age of, say, like 9. She sat me down and she said, you have a blood disorder. It's classified as a blood disorder. And don't worry about it. I don't want you to use this as a crutch. I don't want you to ever think that you are less than. You can still achieve things, Now, it's true that people do die early in childhood with ischemic stroke, they call it. It's true that they, in the past, from the 60s to say the 80s, they really did not live very long. They lived in their into their teens, usually.
I like how you started off with saying that you were, 41?
Yeah.
Right, so you surpassed whatever those statistics would have carried. What I love, that's what I absolutely love, the fact
Yeah.
that you're still here and you're sharing your truth, and that's beautiful. I want to know, Gregory, how has sickle cell affected your relationships, like, with your friends, with your family, how, if it has,
Right.
What has been the outcome?
It hasn't really affected my relationships, but that's just a trait particular to me because me and my dad and most of the Culmers, we are introverts, so we don't like to go out too much. And no, it hasn't really. I think if I had to guess, I would say dating was difficult because I didn't have the energy to be dating, to go out there into the world and be dating a bunch of people and having dinner. And sometimes certain meals, I'll have crisis pain afterward. Go into a stressful event, just a social event like a dinner party, just the anticipation before, even like before coming to the studio, I had to make sure that I played it very cool, kept my heart rate very low because of the nervousness.
Trigger.
The three triggers are cold, which is pretty cold in the studio, stress, and dehydration. So I have my trusty hydration bottle right there.
Right,
Yeah.
right, all right.
We will
So-
always be drinking. You will see people with sickle cell. We will always have some kind of fluid, hydration in our hands.
And guess what? Even if you don't have sickle cell, you gotta have your fluids with you, right? Because that's just how it is. We have to understand that drinking water is a necessity. We have to stay hydrated at all times, right? So keep your little your thermos with you. Keep whatever it is that you want to use. Your favorite bottle along with you. Drink less alcohol and more water, right? That's what. So Gregory, let's continue because right after we're gonna have our doctor who just came in. We're so excited to hear from her today. All right, so I'll continue on with Gregory and until we transition. How has this condition impacted your work life? I know you spoke briefly about being tired all the time because in relationships, wanting to have that energy is an issue for you. Going out places is an issue for you. So let's talk about work, the work environment, your career goals, or just your daily responsibilities.
I'm in a pretty fortunate position right now where I live in a house that is fully paid off, and I have no rent or mortgage. I only need to pay utilities,
That's a blessing.
So I had started a business and I wanted to work from home because after many years in college and doing things for different people, itinerant work and, trying to be selective about my work, I really discovered that I want, and I think that is the sentiment that I had felt from a lot of other people online with sickle cell that I talked to. I'm a part of a Reddit group of people with sickle cell. And they said that they curate their work or they try to work remote or work from home somehow, some way, So that's what I'm doing now. I have a company. My company is called Junkanoo Media, and I'm a landscape photographer. So, yeah.
Okay. So it's on your pace, at your pace, your timing.
Right.
So it's not a big hassle,
I always had issues working in offices with the AC too cold and they didn't have any temperature controls for the AC. Even when I go in the emergency room today, they don't seem to have any control over the ambience, the atmospheric, the life support stuff, the air conditioning. So I have to be wrapped up in I actually have a specific duffel bag just for the hospital. It's packed with my pajamas, my socks, my heating pad, my blanket, and extra pair of clothes. Because they go in the ER and you complain about the temperature. There's nothing the nurse can do. She's not an AC technician,
Right.
So yeah, you have to prepare. You have to take all of your stuff with you when you go to the hospital.
Let's talk about then the mental health. Like you've stated that you're 41. I don't know how it would look or seem to you. Seeing everyone else running around, everyone else, having relationships, everyone else
Right.
doing, going and work offices, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How has it been for you mentally? What did that journey look like, in your mental state?
Right. When I graduated high school in 2002, I had to go straight into therapy a year later when I was in college. Because there were some other things going on. I moved to Freeport with my mom, and she had a rocky marriage, and she was there was some other things going on that I needed to help with. But I think that I was a very depressed. Didn't have the tools, and I didn't even sickle cell was a thing. I thought it was a little small, insignificant, obscure disease.
Right.
It was only later on that I found out it was an actual disability. It was classified the American government decided and passed laws about it. I think that the Americans found out in Vietnam.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. But yeah, I wasn't very mentally healthy. I don't think. I don't think a lot. My 20s, when I recall my 20s, I remember them being kind of rough because I was pretty lonely, wasn't dating, didn't have a lot of social support, and I was around. Quite frankly, I mean, I wasn't around a lot of black people because I moved to Texas after Freeport to be with my aunt who was pursuing a PhD at Texas Tech University. So I lived with my mom's sister, my aunt, and I tried to enroll in Texas Tech, but I didn't have the grades quite as yet. I mean, in school, I remember the very same morning that I took the SAT, I had a crisis. From the anticipation, from the stress of preparing for the exam and the lead up to the exam, and I had a crisis that morning, and I could have postponed it, but I was like, you know what? Let's just get it. Just get it done.
So you still sat the SAT?
I still sat the SAT. Didn't get the highest of scores, which is why I had to wait a little bit before transferring into a state university.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to a private Christian university down the road from my aunt, and that was me.
So, I mean, have you ever had moments where you just felt absolutely discouraged? Because of, in and out of the hospitals. Like you said, you didn't have that much social support. How has it been for you? Because this goes back to the mental state, right? So this goes back to, have you been discouraged to the point where you be like, this doesn't make any sense?
Yes, I was raised. My grandmother actually healed me of sickle. She laid hands on me and anointed my forehead with olive oil, and she commanded the power of Christ to heal me. And so between my mom and my grandmother and my aunt, I could not speak about the disease. It was not a thing. It was one of those things where my mom was like, you speak these things into existence, and so if you acknowledge that you have it, you're giving the adversary, devil, power over you. So if you acknowledge that you have, so we very rarely spoke of any kind of illness. Even my mom very rarely spoke. If she had the flu, she would say, "I'm overcoming the flu. I don't have the flu." So I was never allowed to really acknowledge that I had sickle cell, and that did play a role in the decline in my mental health later on. I think in early adulthood. Because I was kind of ashamed, but at the same time, there's nothing to be ashamed of. And I was also very weak. I didn't have a social life because I would just go to class and then go home to sleep. Even do homework, I would just go to class and go home. So I had no support system. And because most of the people around me were Caucasian, they were white, they didn't understand it either. And I was in a city that was mostly white too, so it was difficult even to get the doctors to be on my side.
Can you share then what has been because we're going to have both sides, your weakest state, your weakest, worst state condition, whether physically, spiritually, mentally, and then I want you to share what has been your best, when you were literally at your best, at your peak, where you felt as if the world is yours, etc. So let's start with the weakest, and then we start with your strongest
back
point.
then, we're talking around 2006, 2007. I realized that I was working part-time jobs and going to school. And I realized that I couldn't work and go to school at the same time. And that was a real low point for me because I felt like a failure. I was and everything else was an excuse. And I just started to get extremely depressed. And the medical bills that I was getting wasn't helping. I ended up around $89,000 worth of medical debt that I got from the hospital. $2,300 ambulance rides. Sometimes I would, just to avoid the bill, I would just drive myself to the hospital. I got to such a low point that I had an experience in Texas where I was in the emergency room and the nurse said, "Your screaming is bothering the other patients, the children. There are children here. Please."
And
Yeah.
you were making noise because of the pain.
Because I was in pain. It feels like 1,000 or 1,000,000 different needles stabbing you in your joints. The problem with sickle cell is you get clogged blood vessels, and also it's a musculoskeletal disease. So it's the blood that's produced in the bone marrow can sickle and get clogged up and damage your organs, and so you're in pain from the lack of oxygen as well. And so I had an incident that going back to Texas, that situation in the emergency room, the nurses that I was drug seeking, I wasn't really in pain. So what they did was they doped me up on whatever Dilaudid or morphine or whatever narcotic they could find, and then they released me. They discharged me. And then
So could it be because they lacked knowledge of what it means? I mean, nurses and all, because it's possible.
Right. But what happened was I was still in pain
Right.
after they gave me the pain medication. So what I did was I walked into the waiting room and just slept in the bathroom of the waiting
Oh
room.
my goodness.
Then a nurse, about 20 minutes later, a male nurse came in and said, buddy, you can't
Sleep
sleep
here.
here. You know, this is not a homeless shelter. You know, you got to go home, or and I'm trying to explain to him, but I am still in pain, and he's not believing me. You know, and I did start to get very depressed and have suicidal ideation, but I think that was more to do with my family history and the pressures that were on me with sickle cell. So what I did was I left school to Nassau.
Okay.
And I just tried to figure myself out. I cycled all the way from Saunders Beach to Jaws Beach and back. And if I did,
From Saunders Beach to Jaws Beach, out west.
to keep my mind from from spiraling.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, just to do something physical to keep my mind.
Let's share, because okay, let's talk about support. You're presently in a community. Are you in a community
Right.
where people,
Right.
who can literally understand you, who knows your pain, your
I only
issues?
recently got in touch with the Bahamas Sickle Cell Association. They have an association here, and they have ward members who are raising money. Because right now, I'm living in a house without plumbing, and I've been living in a house without plumbing for the past 4 years. And I need to, what I am trying to accomplish with my life is I want to get different streams of income, and one of them would be Airbnb. But first I have to rehabilitate this property that I'm living in right now. The property that I inherited from my dad after I took care of him in 2021, and he passed away. It had cast iron plumbing, which didn't work. Nothing drained. Bathrooms, kitchen, nothing drained.
So here it is. You are suffering through sickle cell disease.
And then I'm
And
jackhammering the bathroom floor and the kitchen floor.
You one doing this. So there's no support. Nobody's living with you. You're living by yourself.
I'm living by myself for the past, since 2021. And so I'm jackhammering the bathroom floor, the kitchen floor.
Just to survive.
And I'm excavating the sand and the rocks to remove these pipes, because I'm not a plumber, and I'm completely ignorant of what I need to do.
Right.
All I know is that the pipe ain't working, so I can take it out, right?
Right.
Took me 7 months by myself to do that.
So you don't have, I mean, you connect, you find connections, you make calls, you call a plumber. So
Right.
is the issue finances?
Yeah, right now I don't have a job bringing in that kind of revenue. I mean, I'm self-employed, and even just being in here in this environment with this AC is giving me some issues.
Okay.
So like I have had to be very selective of the jobs that I apply for. I've been on many job interviews, and it was pretty clear that they would tell you, upfront, this is a pretty strenuous job. I mean, I wouldn't name the employer, but
Right.
there was one time I applied for a job, and the lady was kind enough to say, I don't understand why somebody with your qualifications is applying for this job. Could you tell me a little bit more about your situation? I told her the situation, and she was like, to be honest with you, I just had a close associate of mine die with sickle cell, and this particular job is a little too strenuous for you. Then I asked her about a security guard job, and she said, I don't feel comfortable with that because you'd be exposed to the elements,
Right. So you have to be very careful where you work.
The lack of money, I think, would definitely affect anybody's self-esteem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We're going to take a quick break, okay, with you? And then we're going to transition because we have a wonderful, wonderful doctor here who will talk to us a little bit more about sickle cell anemia for those who may not know about it. We were able to hear Gregory's truth. This is his journey, and he even shared with us one or two little medical things that we needed to know, but we're going to allow Dr. Sinqui to share, what it is, how should we deal with family members or loved ones who may be experiencing it. One of the things that Gregory shared is, making sure that the temperature is right, just so that he could survive, not wanting to put too much stress on them, as far as the working environment is concerned, and so many other issues, like making sure that they have the support that is needed, making sure that they have a village, so that they can actually understand that they're not the only one going through this, because it can play with your mental state,
right.
Knowing that you don't have support, no one's there to understand how you feel. And even if you don't necessarily you're tuning in, you don't have sickle cell, but you know what it is to go through certain issues, certain ailments, certain diseases, illnesses, etc., and how lonely that can be when you don't have the support necessary. How stressful it can be when you have doctors who don't understand or nurses who don't understand your plight. As he stated, when he was in the U.S., the nurses were saying, "Look, you need to stop making noise," and he's literally in pain. Mm-hmm. They just hushing him up and giving him morphine just to get him out, So we have to find out, do we have the sensitive doctors? Do we have nurses that can understand what it means to have a patient that has sickle cell anemia? We're going to hear all about that right after this break.
Surfaces inside and outside your home. When used as directed, Lysol eliminates 99.9% of bacteria, fungus, and viruses. Maintain a healthy home by preventing sickness and keeping infections under control. Don't just clean your surfaces, disinfect them. Lysol does more for you and your family. That's our mission for health. Distributed by Thompson Trading Company.
Craving something bold, fresh, and unforgettable? Tropical Gyros is your flavor-packed escape, a Carib-Greek fusion born right here in Nassau. From juicy grilled salmon, chicken, and pork gyros to loaded bowls, fresh salads, wings, and more, there's something for every craving. Find Tropical Gyros at any of their locations, JFK Plaza, Rosetta Street, Port Lucaya Freeport, or their franchise spots on Prince Charles Drive, Soldier Road West, Delaport, and Carmichael Road. Tropical Gyros, not just good food, it's an experience.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
John Shoes and Accessories is your one-stop shop for all your footwear needs. You will find what you're looking for among the growing collection of classic and trendy styles with new arrivals every week. John's covers the whole family and has great prices, helpful and friendly customer service. Your experience shopping with us will be time well spent. Shop with us online at www.johnshoes.com. John's also now carries small home appliances. So come on into John's, located on Rosetta Street in Palmdale and Carmichael Road West. John's, we put fashion at your feet. This holiday season, let Airwick fill your home with the mist of happiness. Enjoy limited edition scents like apple cinnamon medley, glistening snow and frosted mint, sweet vanilla, and all infused with natural herbs and cheer. Find Airwick's essential mist diffusers and scented oil warmers at Kelly's, Lowe's Pharmacy, Paradise Premium Foods, and Family Island locations. Airwick, activate your holiday essence.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome everyone to Your Lane Talk Show with Coach Trish Hanna. Thank you so much, those who've been tuning in via YouTube and Facebook. Guess what? I totally forgot that I'm supposed to be looking at some of these responses from YouTube. Let me see if I could read them real quick. Someone says, yes, always drinking and protecting our body. Someone says, we are warriors. What we go through, many would never survive. Oh, wow. I'm thinking that this is someone who also has sickle cell anemia. Someone says, too many warriors go through so much mentally and physically. Someone says, blessings, my good friend Trish, and to your guests. Someone says, blessing to all. And someone says, pray God give the help that Gregory needs. Yes, in the name of Jesus, I believe that he will get the help that is needed, especially with him saying that he's still dealing with plumbing, etc. So we're back, and just before the break, we had with us Gregory Culmer, who shared his truth, his journey with experiencing sickle cell anemia, and so much different things that he has to go through. But I want to introduce our guest. The second guest for today, this is Dr. Corinne Senqui. She is a pediatric hematologist and oncologist. She specializes in cancers and blood diseases, such as sickle cell disease, in children. She is a graduate of the University of the West Indies and did more training in New Jersey and New York to become a pediatrician, then completed her specialist training at NYU. She returned to the Bahamas in 1992 to join her husband and cardiologist, Dr. Conville Brown. She has given over 35 years of service at Princess Margaret Hospital and is proud to know that she has been helpful in having 6 oncology nurses trained who are all here in the Bahamas. Thank God, because if they're anything like the nurses that Gregory had experienced where he was, we would be in a dire state. All right. She is grateful for the support given by the many nonprofit organizations like the Sickle Cell Association, the Tiffany Treasure Hope Foundation, and the Blue Rose Foundation for the assistance to patients and their families over the years. Special affiliations with the Sick Kids, is that Sick Kids or Sickle Cell Kids?
Sick Kids.
Sick Kids Caribbean Initiative and the American Society of Hematology have enhanced training, education, and consultation, and she's thankful that they have made their contributions. And so I want to welcome you, Dr. Senqui, to Your Lane Talk Show.
Thank you very much, and I didn't want to miss the opportunity to at least engage and spread the word on sickle cell. So.
Absolutely. I'm so happy that you took your time out to be with us today. Now, I know Gregory shared, his truth and his story, but I want you to share with the audience who may not know what sickle cell disease is. Can you share what is sickle cell disease and how does it affect the body?
So it's a genetic disease. So even though we call it a disease, it's not something that you can catch by sneezing or touching. Mm-hmm. It's actually something that is transmitted in families. So if you don't have the genes for sickle cell, you can't get. Mm-hmm. So this is an inherited condition, and it requires 2 abnormal genes. So the normal gene is AA, mm-hmm. but if you have the sickle cell trait and your partner has the sickle cell trait, then together you could have a child with sickle cell disease. Mm-hmm. But it could also be one with sickle cell trait and another one with a different kind of trait. So there are several different types of sickle cell disease that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. The most common is SS. You have SC, S-beta-thal, SO, S-punjab. So there are different types, but by far the most common are the SS, followed by SC disease.
Mm-hmm. And so out of all of the, because I'm not, familiar with the SS and all the other ones that you mentioned, out of all of those that you mentioned, which one is the most common or the one that you see most here and that's prevalent in our country?
Same as everywhere else in the world. SS variety is the most common. And the way you get that is you have one mother who has sickle cell trait, a father who has sickle cell trait. And together they can have, it's like rolling the dice. You can pass the S gene to the baby. The mother passes the S gene to the baby. So there's a 25% chance if you have two with a trait that you could have a child with sickle cell disease.
You happen to know the statistics of how many
Sure.
Bahamians there are with sickle cell disease?
Sure. So we did a study. Dr. Patrick Roberts would have done a study back in the 80s. It was not published, but he reported that about 10% of persons have the sickle cell trait. There was a study that we did, I can't remember the year, but we were able to say that instead of 10%, we got a rate of 12%. So we know that the gene is here.
Yeah.
And we would expect then that we would have a similar experience that we see in other places like Jamaica, where 1 in 300 babies born will have sickle cell disease. 300. And so, you're talking about if we have 6,000 births per year, we are adding about somewhere between 15 to 20 babies a year with sickle cell disease.
Wow. Right. So how can parents then get sickle cell disease?
Okay, so let us start from before.
Yeah.
All mothers are screened for sickle cell trait during pregnancy. And that's standard in the country. Unfortunately, we don't have as much counseling to say if you have sickle cell trait that is picked up, that you should have the baby tested. So it doesn't translate to the next step. But all mothers are currently screened for sickle cell trait. It would be nice for everybody to know their status. And I think that's an important thing. I've educated my patients who have sickle cell disease to try and find a partner that has no trait whatsoever.
Right.
Because that means that they can't have a baby with sickle cell disease, and I tell them to do this before the love sets in.
Right.
And unfortunately, none of them follow my advice
Right.
more than so, okay? But it's okay.
So hold on. So Dr. Singh, you're trying to say now, I'm going on this date. This is my
Right.
first date. And this person looks like, maybe not say the first date, third, fourth date. and
Right.
this person looks quite serious.
Remember I
So-
said before the love sets in.
Right, before the sets in. So here it is that we
Right.
my conversation I'm asking. So tell me, do you have the trait of sickle cell disease?
Well, what you should say is at some point you should disclose that you have sickle cell disease or sickle cell trait.
Right.
Because that is an important factor in the planning of your family.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you are progressing in the relationship to that degree, there should be a serious discussion.
Absolutely.
And at some point before the love really sets in,
Yeah.
you need to say to him, do you know your status? How about you get your status tested so we can know whether or not you have a sickle cell disease, sickle cell trait, or some other kind of trait that together we might have a baby with sickle cell disease. Because I'm not wanting, notice I didn't say anything brutal about it. I'm just not wanting to have a child with sickle cell disease. Because if you listen to Gregory and what he went through, that probably is not an experience that you would necessarily embrace if you could avoid it. And so that is the first step. So we should, after the babies are born, we should have all babies tested.
Yeah.
And in some countries, that is standard. So in the U.S., it is standard to do newborn screening, and the newborn screening actually looks at lots of things.
Yeah.
And one of the things on the newborn screening is for sickle cell. We are not as fortunate to have that done. We have asked to see if we could get that done, that it has not translated into that happening. But in Jamaica, they do newborn screening. And I remember in the 70s when Professor Graham went back as a researcher, he started newborn screening from in the 70s, and he screened like 300 babies, and he followed them from then till whenever to be able to describe the course of the disease.
Wow.
And, and that probably was the start of new screening. And so a lot of people are able to get their screening done and to establish what their status is.
As you said that, there was a post that said I'm going to read this. It says, we need more people to get involved, the government to help us in many areas, especially in legislation. So this is an individual who is presently experiencing sickle cell disease. And of course, she's saying that they need help, you know.
So the foundation that Gregory mentioned, and I will give the number closer to the end, Foundation Association, and that was actually started by my prior mentor, Dr. Patrick Roberts.
Okay.
But they voiced an interest in supporting us to try and get newborn screening off the ground. And what I am going to be exploring is to see if we can do point-of-care testing and to see if we could use that as the initial screening tool, and then if it's positive, to go on to do the more extensive confirmation testing with HB electrophoresis. So, there's still hope. And even though I said newborn screening is not done routinely on everybody, it's not that it is not done at all. So it is pretty for newborn screening, similar to what they do in the States, to have that done. But you're only talking about maybe 20% of the babies that are born in the country are born in the private sector. So it's not impacting the other. Out of 6,000 babies, if it's only 20%, you're only talking about a little over 1,000 babies who might be screened. The other nearly 4,000 plus are not screened. So we have a problem there. But all is not lost. At around a year of age, it is routine in the country for us to do screening for anemia.
Yeah.
And so a blood test is done and a sickle cell test is done routinely at around the age of 1 year. So we'll pick them up there as well. However, the problem with sickle cell disease is that you would like to know that they have sickle cell disease from much earlier, because there are certain interventions you would like to be able to put in place.
Absolutely. I wanted to know, what are some of the signs and symptoms? Yeah.
So for the first 6 months of life, we usually don't have much of any problem, because the babies are born with something that is protective against sickle cells, and that is the higher hemoglobin F that they are born with. But it still doesn't protect them against infection. So it is still something that you would like to know that they have, because the penicillin prophylaxis that we give, the antibiotics that we give to protect against infection, is important to start before 6 months. But nonetheless, at around 6 months is when we start to get into trouble. And they can present with painful crisis, usually in the hands and feet, swollen hands and feet, and pain. And so the babies can have these painful events, in addition to which their spleen can swell. They can have what you call splenic sequestration. They can have serious overwhelming infection, which is why they need to have their vaccination. The routine vaccination should be something that is adhered to, because it will protect them against certain very devastating germs. And then you also have the issue with acute chest syndrome. And so the problems with sickle cell is that they actually, several things. One, because of the shape of the cells, they are broken down faster in the body, and that is what causes the anemia. So these sickled cells are broken down faster, and they will get anemia, and the anemia is what causes them to get fatigue easy. Then you have the breakdown of the cells will also lead to jaundice. It's a byproduct from the breakdown. So you might see some patients will have yellow eyes, and the degree of the anemia and the degree of the jaundice vary from one patient to the next. Then you have the issue of blockage. Gregory mentioned some of them. So you actually have these sickle cells. They don't flow freely in the blood pipes, and so they can block the blood pipes in any blood pipe. And so when you block the blood pipe, you actually interfere with the circulation to the tissue beyond. And so this is what causes the pain. And oftentimes there's a pain in the bone, but you can get other things. You can even get a stroke from these blockages. You can have the blockage blocking the blood can go into the organ, but it can't get out, like in the spleen, and then the spleen gets swollen, and they can present in shock. So we have these sequestration issues. And so the thing about it is that, sickle cell disease has its complication.
So let me ask you then, how can patients reduce the chances of those, the crisis, as you mentioned, from happening? I know, for instance, he said he could avoid, too cold and certain
so Gregory did beautifully. And in fact, what I know is that with patients, a lot of them know what they shouldn't do. Not all the time do they do the things they should
Right.
do. They know.
So let's talk about the
cold.
children then, like children in
No,
school.
but even in general.
In general.
So they need to stay warm.
Yeah.
So I always tell patients, you have to travel with a sweater,
Stay
a
warm.
jacket, stay warm, okay? Because, yes, we live in a humid, hot environment, so we don't usually have any issues with cold weather and snow.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, like Gregory mentioned, you're walking into an air-conditioned room at air-conditioned hospital.
Yeah.
Carry a blanket, okay? There are things you can do that will make your life simpler.
Mm-hmm.
Carry your tam and cover your head. You make sure that you come equipped. That's the first one.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is that you dress with an extra layer of clothing.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, if it is so hot I could go naked, I need to put on a shirt. If somebody needs a sweater, I need a winter jacket. Okay, this is the thing that I have to do from very early. Stay warm. Next thing is hydration. And I encourage parents to carry extra fluids with them at all times. Travel with that fluid so that there is never an issue of giving that patient the extra fluids. And you want to avoid certain situations. Now, I learned this when I came back, because in the States, you don't have much beach, right? You don't have much opportunity to go in the water. But here, we have plenty of opportunity for that.
Yeah.
So what would happen is that patients go to the sea or to the pool, and it is not uncommon for them to describe a painful event soon after they leave. So what I encourage parents to do is, when you go in the water, what you see your fingers do? They shrivel. If you stay too long. That's because water is leaving your body and getting into the saltier water. And in order for you to avoid that is to not stay in the water for an extended period of time. And when you come out, right, if you stay in the wet clothes, what will happen, right? So I encourage them to take off the wet clothes, put on dry clothes, stay on a shaded area, and drink fluids. And it doesn't say that they can't go back into the water. When you go back in the water, you can put on back your swimsuit and then go back in. But I teach them this from very early, and that is something I learned to teach them because patients came in after a swimming event and got into trouble.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
So those are the simple things. When you have the pain, you need to break the cycle early. So you need to keep pain medicines at home. And you could start with simple. Panadol, Tylenol, Calpol, they're all the same thing.
Yeah.
And then you could also keep something like ibuprofen or Motrin at home. Right. And when you have the painful crisis, take the medication at the dose, at least for the first 24 to 48 hours, round the clock to break the cycle. But remember that you have to take fluids. Now, what do you do when you have pain? You breathe short because it kind of eases your pain when you grunt, right? That is a setup for acute chest. So we teach the patients to have their incentive spirometer and to learn to use that incentive spirometer early to know how well they can do it when they're normal, when they're at their baseline, when they're at their best. And that when they have any painful crisis or any evidence, they are to do it even more vigorously. Now, fluids, important. And you need to take lots of fluid. And you need to see the fluids as important as medication because that is, keeping well hydrated is the thing that will help to break that cycle. And then if the pain is that bad or the pain is not resolving, go and seek medical attention.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Gregory, that you went through that with regards to the people not being able to appreciate your level of pain. And that is not an uncommon event. And, pain is a very subjective thing, and you could have somebody who is in a lot of pain and really don't show it, right? Look at the people, look at mothers going through childbirth. You can't ask for nothing more painful than that, right? And not everybody is screaming down the place, but it doesn't mean that the person who's not screaming is not having a... And unfortunately, especially if you are a frequent flyer, if you come into the emergency room a lot, they accuse you of being addicted, that you are just coming there to get the pain medicines. And We do have some patients who become addicted to morphine and the narcotics, but majority of patients, if they are not in pain, do not seek medication. So
Can we talk then about the diet? Because I know you talk about being hydrated all the time. You got to be drinking. So let's talk about what a typical diet would entail for someone who has sickle cell anemia.
the same as a good diet for anybody else.
Yeah.
There's nothing special that you have to do for sickle cell disease. When it comes to any extra nutrient, the one that you need more of is folate. So the folic acid is the thing that is used up in the production of the cells as the body is trying. So that is one of the extra nutrient that we write for them to get. Outside of that, just a nice, well-balanced diet is all that they need. Nothing else that I know of will make it.
A poster says iron-filled diet is good.
No.
No?
So we don't recommend you to take any extra iron supplements.
He will send it to me.
Okay, and the reason that we don't want patients with sickle cell disease to have extra iron supplement is that not uncommonly along the way, they actually get blood transfusion for one reason or the other. You know, whether or not their bone marrow kind of go to sleep for a little bit because of aplastic crisis, or they have an infection, or they have an increased breakdown of the cells, or they have the pooling of the blood in the organs like the spleen with the sequestration. That it is not uncommon for a sickle cell patient in their lifetime to have received blood transfusion, and every unit of blood that is received has a lot of iron in it. So we tend not to want to give sickle cell patients iron because iron overload is own complication. And only if we confirm that they are iron deficient would we want to give iron supplements.
I'm glad that this poster was able to stated that, so that means that she probably was, consuming a lot of iron to assist with her diet. But what are some other myths or misunderstandings that people have about sickle cell disease, including things that they eat, maybe, things that they should do or should not do? So what are some of the myths that or misunderstandings that we can debunk today?
Well, we can go back to the one with the iron. As I stated in the beginning, sickle cell disease is an inherited condition. So giving iron therapy, as would be the treatment for patients with iron deficient anemia, like if you have heavy periods and you're losing iron that way, or your diet is not good in iron, and because you have a low intake, then iron would work. But iron therapy doesn't work to correct the anemia in sickle cell disease.
Okay.
What other myths? That you're going to die. You're going to die early. I remember in treating a patient, he was now 20. And he said, Dr. Sinqui, next year is my birthday. So, I have to prepare for my death. Huh? Yes, we die early, right? And the answer to that is that we have a lot of complications that can cause you to die. You're right. So the acute chest can be severe enough that you could die. The stroke can be devastating enough that you could die. And you do have complications from sickle cell disease at the level of the kidney that could cause your lifespan to be shorter. And in general, patients, because of all these added complications, an infection, and let me not forget the infection one. And so the early in life, the children have probably the highest mortality for sickle cell disease in the earlier period. And then things like childbirth is not a good thing for sickle cell disease, okay? That puts an extra risk on the mother who have sickle cell disease, and definitely put extra risk on the baby, whether the baby has sickle cell disease or doesn't have sickle cell disease. That's an extra risk on the baby itself too. So pregnancy is not a kind thing. I mean, it's a beautiful thing when the baby comes out normal, the mother is well afterwards, but it's a rough period, and so that's a high-risk pregnancy. So, what I would say, education and information is important, and, having a health provider who you can talk to and ask questions. And, let me not downplay Dr. Google. Dr. Google is a free doctor who is available 24/7.
Dr.
Ask him
Sinclair,
anything
listen,
you
Dr.
want.
Google could send you to your grave. I don't trust Dr. Google.
No. Now, you notice what I said, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is available.
Yes.
And you have some good information.
Yeah.
And you have some not so good information.
Yeah.
So it's important for you to look at the sources. And so you do have some reliable sources out there. So the American Society of Hematology they have guidelines out there from reliable sources that you can look at. And you have to have, that is why I said you need a healthcare provider
absolutely.
who you can say that I should do or shouldn't do. Because not everything that is there is correct. You are correct, right?
Yes.
But ask Dr. Google any question you want.
Mm-hmm. So here's somebody asking, they didn't complete the question, so hopefully you'll be able to understand what they're trying to say. Let me read this. It says, what are symptoms of acute chest syndrome, especially in? And that's
okay. So acute chest syndrome is one where you suspect it because the patient has fever, chest pain, shortness of breath, and just those symptoms alone should make you want to check and see if they do have chest syndrome. And the thing that would set you up for that, even belly pain, so anything around the chest, it's a lung problem, okay? Anything around the chest could give you pain, could give you acute chest. So if you have belly pain and you breathe short, okay, you could get acute chest. If you have back pain, you breathe short, acute chest. Chest pain, breathe short, acute chest. So fever, shortness of breath, and then the findings, you see a new infiltrate. You see what looks like a pneumonia, but we don't call it pneumonia because we want to make sure that people who are managing these patients take into consideration that they have sickle cell and pneumonia, okay? So we call it acute chest so that they not only treat them with antibiotics, but they manage their pain and they manage their oxygenation.
Here's another post that says early screening.
And fluids.
Sorry, and fluids. Yes. Early screening is a must. My son was not diagnosed until he was 7 years old, and I had to push them to test him after many crises.
You're right,
Wow.
and we mentioned that already about the possibility for encouraging newborn screening from early and for making sure that anybody who is screened and told that they have the sickle cell trait, they need to insist that their babies get tested after the babies are born, okay? So I want to encourage that fully here.
All right, so I want to transition, but before I do, we want to ask, what message would you like to leave with someone who may be newly diagnosed or caring for someone with sickle cell disease?
Okay. It's not a death sentence. And if you ask anybody who has a child with sickle cell disease, if they knew that child had sickle cell disease, would they have aborted that child? The answer would probably be no.
No, absolutely not.
So we can confirm the status of the baby before the baby is born. But what I say to mothers is that if you have no intention of going through abortion for that baby cell disease, then there is no need to test before the baby is born. We can do the testing and the confirmation after birth, and then there's lots of things that we can do. And there was a halt in research for a long time. We never had the funding, we never had the recognition. You're right that in the USA, it was in the 70s. I mean, sickle cell disease was first confirmed in 1910, right? And look at that. In 1970s, when Kennedy gave some attention to looking at it and saying that, no, we need to give some attention to sickle cell disease. And only in the more recent year that we have had another drive to try and say, boy, we need to put some money into research for sickle cell disease.
I would love that. I would love, and there are a few posters that said, hey, we need to in it, and we need to do more screening and early testing and all these other things that are needed. Dr. Siki, just we're going to take a quick break because we're going to transition, and then we'll let you continue just before we close. Okay, so let's take a break, and then we're going to go to we have someone that's on the call that experienced their significant other what am I saying? Their significant other had developed sickle cell disease, and so she was dealing with them even up to his death. So of course we want to share, and she's going to share with us, the journey that she went through dealing as a wife with a husband with sickle cell. So we'll take a quick break, and then we'll hear her story and her journey. Okay, right after this.
This holiday season, let Airwick fill your home with the mist of happiness. Enjoy limited edition scents like apple cinnamon medley, glistening snow and frosted mint, sweet vanilla and shea butter, all infused with natural oils to bring warmth and cheer. Find Airwick's essential mist diffusers and scented oil warmers at Kelly's, Lowe's Pharmacy, Paradise Premium Foods, and Family Island locations. Airwick, activate your holiday essence.
You need to turn up the volume. This message is for you.
Where are you in your dream business? Have you published your book as yet? Do you feel fulfilled in life? Need help with time management? Or perhaps a breakthrough in your marriage? I believe we can help. At Your Lane Life Coaching, our professional team will help you discover what you really want and take you from where you are to your desired outcome in your life or marriage. Fulfilling your goals is important to us. Call us today at 376-8689 or visit our website at www.yourlanelifecoaching.com.
Your Lane Life Coaching, discovering pathways to progress.
At the heart of every great meal is a simple yet powerful idea: quality. At Del Monte, we are committed to cultivating quality, growing the freshest, most nutritious vegetables, fruits, and tomatoes for your family. With non-GMO ingredients and BPA-free packaging, you can trust that every can is packed with goodness. So whether it's a quick snack or a hearty family dinner, Del Monte brings wholesome flavor to your table. Look for it in your favorite food store. Del Monte, fresh taste, smart choices. Distributed by Thompson Trading.
John's is your one-stop shop for all your footwear needs. You will find what you're looking for among the growing collection of classic and trendy styles with new arrivals every week. John's covers the whole family and has great prices, helpful and friendly customer service. Your experience shopping with us will be time well spent. Shop with us online at www.johnshoes.com. John's also now carries small home appliances. So come on into John's, located on Rosetta Street in Palmdale and Carmichael Road West. John's, we put fashion at your feet.
With Lysol, you can disinfect all surfaces inside and outside your home. When used as directed, Lysol eliminates 99.9% of bacteria, fungus, and viruses. Maintain a healthy home by preventing sickness and keeping infections under control. Don't just clean your surfaces, disinfect them. Lysol does more for you and your family. That's our mission for health. Distributed by Thompson Trading Company.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Hello, welcome back to Your Lane Talk Show. This is Coach Trish Hanna. We are talking about sickle cell anemia disease, and we have with us online a beautiful lady. You won't be able to see her though. You can hear her. She'll be sharing her truth about experiencing sickle cell disease. Not necessarily her, but with her spouse, her husband, her late husband. She's going to share her journey. Her name is Passion. In fact, Passion. Because I keep telling her, I said, Passion, sound like my name is Trishon. Her name is Passion. So Passion, welcome to Your Lane Talk Show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes. So briefly, we're not going to keep you on for too long because we want to hear back from our doctor. We want you alongside your husband during his journey with sickle cell disease.
It was good. We had our moments. Going into while dating, I found out he had sickle cell, and later on got married. Knowing that, sickle cell persons, they don't live long. We still had a good 9 years together, and we had one daughter before he died.
Sorry, say that again.
Before he died.
Before he died.
Before he died,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Yes. And how old is
She's
your
now
daughter
16.
now?
She's now 16.
Oh wow. And does she carry the trait? Does she
Yes,
have?
ma'am.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one because I don't have sickle cell trait because I have myself tested. He recommended that I got myself tested while we were dating. I did that,
Smart.
knowing that we would get married one day and want to have kids. I had one daughter. I wanted more, but he, was satisfied with
That you said exactly what Dr. Sinky was experiencing and stating to us that, hey, when you go and when you're dating, try hard ask about, and that's status for everything pertaining to your health that the other person should be aware of. And I love the fact that you said, yes, I did know. I already knew that he had this. We already knew what the risks would look like, but I loved him. And, we continued on with this journey. What were some of the biggest emotional or maybe physical or financial challenges your family faced while supporting him?
Well, he did regular visits to a doctor in Florida from time to time. Being in and out of the hospital here, sometimes when he go on vacation, he may come down with a crisis that might end up him being hospitalized, being on drips wherever the destination may be.
Wow.
So we had a lot of support from both of our families.
I think that's so important, having the support. Support is vital, and that community is vital. So it didn't really carry much of a weight, hopefully, on you. But were there any other, how did it impact your marriage per se? Were there moments where you'd be like, you know what, I can't take this? Did you have any of those, look, I forget it moments, or were you still by his side the entire time?
Yes, ma'am, I was. There was one point in time where I wanted to study, take up some evening classes. That was before. And I was able to go through my pregnancy with classes, was still trying to complete those classes. And there was one point we sat down and we had a conversation with him being in and out of hospital from time to time because every so often, every few months, he would get sick. So me doing that back and forth, hospital visits, work, dealing with my daughter, and dealing with class, it became a load on me. Yeah. And we talked about it, and I had to, take a break from that. To focus on him and her. Yeah.
And do you regret any of that? Do you regret, having to be with someone?
No, ma'am, I don't. It was an experience. You have to be strong, have faith in God to give you strength and courage. And I guess I prepared myself knowing that I'll be raising her by myself, but not so much by myself because, like I said, I had a lot of support from family on both sides. So, just gotta prepare yourself if you're going to continue with someone with an illness like sickle cell.
Yeah. And I know, I heard that you mentioned that, relying on God, and giving him the honor and the glory of the fact that he has actually helped you through this. Your faith helped you, and I thank God for that. But was there anything else that your faith helped you? Was there community help you? Was there anything else that was keeping you stable mentally?
I guess other than my faith, love for each other, and raising a child, to lean on that.
And so just your love. I mean, not just because that's a lot. Your love was keeping you going. Your faith in God was keeping you going. Your family and community was keeping you going, which is important. It's just paramount because those three, I don't know how one would survive. Because even in a marriage where it may not be any form of sicknesses or diseases in it, you still have to rely on God. You still have to depend on that community, and you still have to maintain that love, in a regular situation. So, all hats and go off to you in that regard. Now, I wanted to have you on board just to encourage those women or men. You have a spouse that may be going through this journey of sickle cell disease or any other disease, any other ailment. What encouragement would you give as a spouse to someone helping another spouse to go through their journey? What would you tell them, those who are tuning in right now, how they should continue on and what should keep them going as they go through this journey in life?
Well, first of all, you have to educate yourself about sickle cell and accompany that person every step of the way. Be their support and
Are you there?
yes, I'm here. Just trying to get my thoughts together.
No,
yeah.
that's okay. So let me ask you then, what would you have wanted someone to tell you in that time and the journey that you were going through with your husband?
Just be strong for them, because there are moments when they really, really need that support, someone there, because going through a crisis is not easy at all. And to see them in that pain,
my God,
and you can't do anything about it, I'm getting a little emotional talking about it, but just be there.
Thank you. I don't want to put you through any more of that, but I am grateful that you were strong enough to share, your journey. You were strong enough to encourage the people who are tuning in, who may be in the same situation that you're in right now. And I thank you for allowing I thank God for allowing you to be able to share in strength and for allowing you to go through this journey. And what was most meaningful is the fact that you said you did not regret it. And I love that. I love that. I love the fact that, once again, you were able to know what you were going to be facing. You got educated about, sickle cell disease, and you continued on with the journey. And I pray for your continued strength. And
thank you.
And may you continue to be blessed. And thank you for tuning in and being a part of the show and adding value to the show. Okay. God bless you.
God bless you too. Thank you.
Woo. I was trying to, y'all know, for those who listen and tune into your Lane Talk Show, y'all know it only take one little drop for me and that's it. I gone. I done crying, right? I try to keep it together. But Dr. Sinky, let me just read some of these inserts real quick. Someone says, yes, early testing is key. My daughter went into crisis at 3 and we found out. I was 26 when I found out I had sickle beta. What's this? Child, I can't pronounce that.
Thalassemia.
That part. All right. And then someone else says, early screening should be mandatory. You should not have to fight for it. Someone says, we were living in Canada going on 3 years and not one crisis, just strictly on natural supplements, even flow, and folic acid. Someone says, I may have missed this, but can adults develop sickle cell? And then I love this post that says, join and or donate to the Bahamas Sickle Cell Association and Sickle Talk. Both give education and support to all warriors. And that was definitely something that we wanted to end the show with, sharing how can we help those in that community. But before we speak about that, and go ahead, continuing.
We talked about preventing crisis and all of those measures. But also to mention that, the biggest advance in the treatment of disease was the inclusion of hydroxyurea back in the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And this made a dramatic difference to the quality of life for patients. And what spurred this on was that we know that in the first 6 months of life, the thing that prevented babies from getting crisis was the hemoglobin F. So they thought, well, maybe if we could find a medication that could boost the hemoglobin F in later life, because that hemoglobin F drops down to next to nothing within 4 to 6 months of life, that maybe that this could make a difference. And the drug that they were able to find is hydroxyurea. Now, hydroxyurea is a cancer drug. And so we worried about cancer drugs for anything and all the side effects and all the suppression of the bone marrow factory, so it can lead to increased risk for infection, worsened anemia, problems with bleeding. So we were hesitant about its use, but since the 1990s, so this drug has been in use for over 30 years and has made a dramatic difference in the quality of life of patients with sickle cell disease. It decreases the amount of crisis. It decreases the hospitalization when you're in crisis. It decreases the risk for acute chest. And in fact, it also decreases the likelihood of developing stroke in children. And before time, we only had transfusion to decrease that risk. Now we have hydroxyurea added to the thing that would decrease the risk. So it means now that we can give hydroxyurea, and hydroxyurea is given liberally to adult patients, and we started giving it to children many, many years ago. The problem, we talked about the complications, so we hesitant a little bit about hydroxyurea, that's true. So you do need monitoring of your blood levels. But guess what? The change in life has been so dramatic that in first world countries, it is now recommended to be started as early as 9 months of age, before the patient has any crisis whatsoever. So you are seeing less and less of the traditional complications from sickle cell in those countries where you have that. And what I want to impress upon the viewers or the listeners is that it's not only about changing the quality of life with complications. There's damage to organ that is ongoing with little blockages. And so this is how come you have an increased risk for kidney failure. You have an increased risk for little infarctions to the brain. The heart is being strained as well. So there's lots of organs and tissue that are being damaged with sickle cell that hydroxyurea use can modify. Now, there are other drugs that came on the market, voxelotor, but they took that off because there were some fatalities associated with it, and Pfizer pulled that off from the market in the early I think it was 2023, and so that's voxelotor. Then the other one, the crizanlizumab, that one is off the market in the European countries and the UK because they didn't feel that one gave you the kind of outcome. And these two drugs cost a lot. Now, you have some patients who were on it that felt that it worked and are disappointed, but those two are off the market. The second one, though, is still on the market in the USA, but for the most part, not available here. And it is with hesitancy that we are looking at that. Then you have L-glutamate, that is another drug, oral drug. And then the other two things to mention quickly is the use of bone marrow transplantation, which is what you had mentioned, stem cell transplantation, and the other thing is gene therapy. Both of those would be nice if you had it available, because those are things that could cure sickle cell disease if you have a donor. The only problem, though, is that it's associated with a lot of cost. You are talking at least about $500,000 for stem cell transplantation and over $1 million for gene therapy. So I doubt we would have any patients in the Bahamas who will be eligible for this, even on insurance. To try and lobby for the insurance to pay for it is a challenge.
So we literally have like 5 more minutes left before another live show comes on board. And so I want to just come back over to Gregory to state in 1 minute or less, any closing there to those who are listening, who are tuning in right now regarding sickle cell disease, maybe for someone who is currently experiencing it, some ray of hope that you can give, some encouragement that you can give on our show.
Right. There are organizations out there that specialize in sickle cell disease. We have the Bahamas Sickle Cell Association. They can help people. They're currently helping me find a job, and they're currently helping me raise money from my plumbing and my carpentry and my roofing needs. By the way, I just wanted to say out on the radio that if there is any specialist getting rid of termites or plumbing, or anybody in the trades that wants to offer something for free for me to help me get my house back on the Airbnb market, then please reach out to me. But there are. It's
you want to
still
share your number? Then
810-2999. And I have to put an emphasis on free.
Okay, so that's just your.
Yeah. There is still hope. There's a clinical trial going on with gene therapy. It's $2 million trying to find a way to get Medicaid to pay for that. So, there is hope.
There is hope. I love that. That's a good closing remark. There is hope. All right, Dr. Sinky, any last remarks before we leave?
I think everybody should know their status, and there should be a good, active discussion about the possibility of having any children with sickle cell disease, and educate yourself. Know that this is not a death sentence. Make sure that you go to the doctor and you're partners with the doctors in the management of your sickle cell disease, whether it be for yourself or your child.
Yeah, I love that. Listen, let everything that has breath praise the Lord. That's in Psalm 150, verse 6. I wanted to share that because I want to speak to every person listening today who may be battling with sickness, pain, disappointments, or a diagnosis that have tried to define their life. You are still here. All right, you're still here. And if you still have breath in your lungs, then God still has purpose for your life. Okay? Excellent. I'll read that for you. All right. Your condition is not your conclusion. I wanted to share that. I wanted to share that your pain is not your identity. Your diagnosis is not your destiny. Sometimes suffering makes people feel like life is over, like they just want to pull the plug. Life purpose has expired. Life, they have been, for them, it feels as if nobody's checking for them. They feel forgotten, but I came to remind somebody today, God is not done with you yet, okay? While you still have life, God wants to use you. Everything about your life has already been written. Go through the journey believing that you still have purpose, that you're not living in vain, okay? God loves you. That's my closing remark. God loves you, all right? So I want to share, you may have to open this again. Sorry. Okay. I want to share the president of the Bahamas Sickle Cell Association. Her name is Mrs. Kristen Bannaby. And for any information or more information, you can give her a call at 558-6329. That's 558-6329. Okay, we're closing out, but I see where somebody is trying to call in, Chris. We can take that call. 1 minute. Yeah. You text, then call her, because we're about to end the show right now. So if you are, or anyone you know that is experiencing sickle cell disease, you can give Kristen Bannaby a call, 558-6329, okay? Today's show, episode 173, More Than My Condition, Redefining Life Beyond Sickle Cell Disease, is brought to you by John Shoe Store and Accessories, Tropical Gyros, Your Lane Life Coaching. You go to www.yourlanelifecoaching.com for your relationship and life coaching needs. We're also brought to you by the Children's Dream Journal, available now at All Seasons Book and Gift Center in Palmdale or on Amazon. We're brought to you by Lysol, Del Monte, and Airwick, who are proudly sponsored by Thompson Trading. Thank you so much, Thompson Trading. We're brought to you by Commonwealth Bank and 242 Media Connect, all right? So I want to thank our producer, Chris, for holding it down, as always. I want to thank Dr. Sinky for being a part of our show, of making and contributing much value. Thank you, Gregory, for being a part of our show as well, and for sharing your truth. Thank you to your Lane listeners and new listeners. Would you please like and follow you on YouTube for more great shows? I am Coach Trish Hanna. We are here and live every Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.